Evil Dead 2013 is one of my all-time favourite horror films. I think it is an amazing reboot of the Evil Dead franchise. It's full of crazy and gory kills, so I thought it would be the perfect film to start off my new series called Death Ranking. In this series, I will be going through and ranking all the deaths in the chosen horror film. The highest ranked will be the ones that are the most impactful, creative and gory, and the lower ranked ones will be the ones that are a little bit more forgettable. This will go into spoilers for the film and explain the kills in bloody detail. I will first do a quick plot overview and then get into my ranking. Mia's brother David and their friends are really worried about Mia's drug addiction. They are determined to get her clean and get her away from any chance of a relapse. A group of 5 of them travel to Mia and David's secluded family cabin that they used to visit in their childhood. When they first arrive, Mia makes a show of pouring her drugs away and saying that she is never going to touch it again. She soon starts to complain about a smell in the cabin and they find that it is coming from the basement. When they go down there, they find a lot of strange things, including a lot of dead cats. They also find the Necronomicon. This is wrapped in barbed wire and has a black bag around it. One of the friends, Eric, decides to investigate the book. He starts going through it and sees many warnings for him to stop reading and to just close the book. He ignores those warnings and keeps on going through. He sees some words that have been scribbled out. These words are raised, so he makes rubbings and reads them aloud, which ends up reawakening an ancient evil. This starts a chain of awful events and some very gory scenes as the members of the group become possessed and turn into deadites. Mia is the first to turn and she ends up also infecting some of the others in the group. David is determined to save his sister, but Eric says that he read in the book that there are only 3 ways to save her soul, and those 3 ways were a live burial, bodily dismemberment, or purification by fire. David pours gasoline all over the cabin. With Mia still in the basement, he is about to set it alight, but then he realizes he can't do this to his sister and has another idea. He sets to work making a defibrillator and with the help of Eric manages to go down to the basement, sedate Mia and carry her out of the basement to perform a live burial. Once she is fully buried, he quickly digs her up and uses the defibrillator on her. She eventually wakes up and she is returned to her normal self again. David goes into the house to grab the keys so they can drive out of there, but unfortunately Eric is in there in a deadite form and attacks David. David knows that he is most likely going to turn, so he pushes Mia out the house and sets the house ablaze with him and Eric inside. Just when Mia thinks this is all over, the sky starts to rain blood and the Abomination comes out of the ground. In a very tense and thrilling scene, Mia manages to destroy the Abomination and end this nightmare once and for all. So that is a quick plot overview. I will now get into the death ranking. Coming in at number 7, we have a death from the opening scene. This is actually an unnamed girl, but this sets the scene for the whole film. At the beginning of the film, we see a young girl running through the woods. She ends up getting captured and tied to a wooden post down in a basement. She seems normal, she seems innocent, and she's asking them why they're doing this to her. Down in the basement with her is her dad and a group of other people. Her father tells her that she has done the unspeakable and killed her mother as well as hurt a lot of other people. A woman is reading from the Necronomicon and says this is the only way to save her soul. Her father apologizes whilst pouring a flammable substance on her. He strikes a match and she suddenly changes into her deadite form. So basically, when she was acting all innocent before, that was just an act to try to get them to not kill her, although she has been a deadite this whole time. She starts shouting profanities at her father and she laughs while she is being burnt, but her father ends it once and for all by bringing a shotgun to her head and blowing her brains out. This is hands down one of the best openings to a horror film in my opinion. In only 4 minutes, so much happens. I love that we get a twist and some gore before the title scene has even appeared. We don't actually have a name for this girl or know the story of what's happened here. This scene is just really to set the mood and the tone of the film to let us know what we're getting ourselves into. Coming in at number 6, we have David. David is of course Mia's brother. It seems like before they came to the cabin they had a kind of struggling relationship. Their mum had been sick in hospital and it seems like Mia was left all alone to deal with this as David left for a job in Chicago. Mia ended up watching her mum die in the hospital. David was also unaware of how bad Mia's addiction was, so it seems like he was absent for quite a big chunk of her life. David doesn't really have a crazy death scene. He doesn't get hurt as much as anyone else in the film, but he does have a few injuries here and there, but it's absolutely nothing like the others. Towards the end of the film, when he is trying to escape with Mia, Mia, he ends up getting stabbed in the neck by Deadite Eric, and then to prevent himself from turning after the attack, he sets the cabin on fire, burning himself alive as well as Deadite Eric. David is still a crucial character, but he doesn't have any crazy scenes. Coming in at number 5, we have Deadite Mia. Mia is of course our main character. She is the reason why everybody is at the cabin in the first place, because of her drug problem. Mia first becomes possessed when Eric reads aloud the words from the Necronomicon. She is in the woods and gets attacked by nature. This is a controversial scene. It is very similar to a scene in the first Evil Dead film. Mia is held up by tree vines. She sees a demonic abomination version of herself, and a black slimy vine thing comes out of the demon's mouth and goes into Mia. The first moment the group realise that there is something not right with Mia is when she has a shower, but she turns the heat all the way up and ends up burning her body and blistering her skin. David rushes to try to get her to the hospital, but unfortunately the roads are flooded, so they end up back at the cabin. They give Mia sedatives and put her to bed. The others are in the front room. Mia stumbles in and she's not herself. She has changed into a Deadite. She stumbles in with a gun and tells them that they are all going to die tonight. She then causes lots of mayhem and mischief with the others, causing a lot of the others to become possessed too. In her Deadite form, she also injures herself with a box cutter, cutting her tongue in half. The way that Deadite Mia dies is through the live burial that David performs on her. Although this isn't the craziest kill of the film, it's still so iconic and really clever. Of course, Mia doesn't actually die, it is just her Deadite form that dies. At number 4, we have Eric. Eric is a friend of the group. He is a school teacher and he's the reason why all of this happens to them. He is the one that decides to investigate the Necronomicon despite so many warnings in the book telling him to not go on and to not read it, but he just completely ignores them. He ends up speaking words from the book out loud and awakening an ancient evil. Although Eric is the reason why this is all happening, he is still a great character. He is clearly a great friend because in so many situations he's saved people and helped out even when it meant he's gonna get hurt himself. He is also the character that probably goes through the most. He gets attacked and injured so many times you just end up feeling so bad for him. Ultimately his death isn't that crazy or interesting, but everything that he goes through leading up to his death makes up for it. So throughout the film, Eric gets stabbed in the chest with a piece of broken mirror. He gets a needle stabbed into his face multiple times, causing him to actually have to pull the needle out of under his eye. He gets repeatedly shot with a nail gun. He gets his hand absolutely mutilated by a crowbar and is beaten with it too. And then he gets stabbed with a box cutter before dying from his extensive injuries. He does come back as a Deadite who attacks David, but ultimately ends up dying in the fire David starts anyway. Number 3 on this death ranking is the character Natalie. Natalie is David's girlfriend. We don't know much about her other than that she seems quite shy at first, but we see her true resilient character when she is put in a life-threatening position. She is the second in the group to die not long after Olivia. Natalie is in the kitchen, which is next to the main room where the trapdoor is leading to the basement where Deadite Mia is. Natalie is alone in this part of the cabin whilst David and Eric are somewhere else sorting some things out. The trapdoor is randomly open and Natalie can hear Mia down there crying, asking why she's down there. This is of course Deadite Mia playing tricks on Natalie because she's using Mia's normal voice. Natalie stupidly goes down there to console Mia despite her better judgment. When she goes down there, Mia reverts back to her Deadite form and Natalie tries to run up the stairs to get away, but Mia grabs her by the ankle and pulls her back down. Mia bites Natalie on her hand and then slices her own tongue in half with a box cutter before forcing a kiss onto Natalie. After this, Natalie is able to escape. David rushes in and chains the basement shut. At this point, they are definitely realizing there is something wrong with Mia and it's not just withdrawal symptoms. Natalie goes to the sink and some really disgusting black gross stuff seeps out of the wound. She sees her hand change in front of her eyes and it starts to have a mind of its own. It looks very infected and spreads rapidly up her arm. Whilst this is happening, Mia is laughing at her through a gap in the trapdoor. Natalie finds an electric meat cutter next to her and she acts fast because she is running out of time, so she just goes for it and starts cutting her arm off. The guys come into the kitchen and find her just as she has finished cutting her arm off. She says that she had to and that she feels much better now. Mia giggles from down in the basement, so we just know that this isn't the end of it. The guys put Natalie to bed and are chatting in the front room not long before Natalie comes stumbling in her Deadite form. She is wielding a nail gun that she has clearly used on herself because there are quite a few nails sticking out of her head. This makes me think, did she do this as she was turning? Did she try to end her life so she didn't turn into a Deadite? In the front room, she is firing nails at poor Eric. The nails are landing in his arm. David jumps on Natalie to get her away from Eric, and he starts to edge towards a shotgun. Natalie finds a crowbar and rushes to David to start beating him with it, but luckily for David, he's got a great friend in Eric because Eric starts shooting Natalie with the nail gun. She quickly switches targets and smashes the crowbar into Eric's hand, causing his fingers to go in all sorts of unnatural directions. She whacks him with the crowbar a few more times before David grabs the shotgun and blasts off her remaining hand. She then reverts back to her human form and bleeds out. But obviously we don't know if she actually reverted back to her human form or if she was just playing tricks as a Deadite to make them feel bad. Coming in at second place is Olivia. Olivia is a friend of Mia and David's, and she is a registered nurse. Alongside Eric, she had previously seen Mia overdose, which is something that Mia's brother David wasn't even aware of. Olivia is one of the stricter friends because she tells everybody that she's tried this before with Mia and it didn't end up working. So she says that this time they have to be strong, and no matter what Mia says, and even if she asks to go home, they have to be strong and say no. They must not give in to Mia and take her home. Olivia is the first in this group to die. After the ordeal of David trying to take Mia to hospital but not being able to, they come back and Olivia gives Mia some sedatives. This is the point where Mia stumbles into the front room and the group see her in her Deadite form for the first time. Being a registered nurse, Olivia steps in to help but quickly regrets this decision when Mia throws up some bloody puke right into Olivia's face. She pushes Mia off. That is when Mia falls into the trapdoor down to the basement and Eric rushes over to lock it. They decide that they are going to have to give Mia some more tranquilizer, so Olivia goes to the bathroom to prepare some more for her. When Olivia is in the bathroom, she sees a glimpse of a rather messed up and demonic version of herself in the mirror. Meanwhile, in the other room, the Necronomicon turns to a rather scary looking page. Olivia suddenly becomes paralyzed. This is obviously when she's being possessed and when she's turning into a Deadite. Eric goes looking for her, but he makes a rather disturbing discovery when he finds her in the bathroom cutting some of her own face off. I can't really show that on here. It is very graphic. She cuts off some of her cheek next to her mouth, leaving some of her teeth exposed. When Eric sees her, he steps back in a panic but ends up slipping over on the piece of skin that she has cut off her face. He is laying on the floor after his fall and Deadite Olivia comes straight at him. She stabs him with a shard of glass in the chest and then picks up the syringe on the floor from when she was preparing Mia's sedatives. She uses this as a weapon on Eric, stabbing him multiple times in the face. He manages to push her off of him. She is absolutely relentless and will not leave him alone, so he grabs a bit of broken ceramic from the toilet and bashes her head in. This scene is very brutal. It is a long scene with lots of injury detail. It doesn't pan away. We get to see everything. There is tons of gore and some great effects. It is kind of crazy how with Olivia things went from 0 to 100, from her being fine to her cutting her own face off, then to being killed in a really extreme way. In first place we have the Abomination. This is at the end of the film. This is the last scene. At this point the Taker of Souls has claimed the 5 souls required to summon the Abomination into the world of the living. This was stated in the book earlier on in the film. Although Mia has reclaimed her soul back, because it was taken from her previously, it still counts. Mia is the only survivor of the group after watching the cabin burn down with Eric and her brother David inside. She is outside the cabin when it starts to rain blood. Just when she thought it was all over, a hand reaches out from the ground and grabs her. She screams and jumps back just to watch the Abomination crawl out from the dirt. The Abomination relentlessly chases Mia into the shed where she finds a chainsaw that she selects from multiple weapons. Mia hides behind a wooden wall and the Abomination starts stabbing a machete into the wall and it catches on Mia a few times. One of the really cringeworthy moments is where it catches the top of her knee. She runs and hides under a truck while starting the chainsaw. The Abomination comes over to her but she manages to chainsaw its legs off. She rolls away but unfortunately ends up getting caught under the truck because the Abomination pushes the truck over, crushing one of her arms. Legless, the Abomination starts crawling over to Mia. She has no time to waste, so she finds the strength to rip her arm away from her hand, severing it. When the demon finally reaches Mia, it tells her that it will feast on her soul. But Mia hasn't gone through all of that for nothing, so she sticks the chainsaw on her severed hand and tells the demon,
"Face on this motherfucker!"
then proceeds to stick the chainsaw into the Abomination's head, sawing it in half, ending this nightmare once and for all. The ground literally swallows the corpse of the Abomination up, taking it back to where it belongs. This is hands down one of my all-time favourite scenes in a horror film. Just when you think the film is ending with the cabin on fire and Mia watching it burn, the sky starts to rain and you just know that there is more to come. It's such a fun surprise on first watch because when you think the film is over, it's not. Of course, the chainsaw on her severed arm is a callback to the original Evil Dead film. I think they did this in such a good way. That is the end of my death ranking for Evil Dead 2013. Let me know what you thought of my ranking and let me know what film you would like me to rank the deaths of next. As always, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you again soon.